Today we are talking about frequency tables. So frequency tables are just a way to organize information or data. And we'll talk first about the parts of a frequency table. So the first part you need to know is that a frequency table is always going to have a title. And the title tells you what the frequency table is about. So the title of this frequency table is favorite sport. That tells me that this data is about favorite sports. Then a frequency table has categories, and I think about categories like answer choices. So if you were to ask someone, what is your favorite sport? And you gave them these choices, soccer, football, basketball, baseball or softball, volleyball. The answer choices are the categories. And finally, a frequency table has tally marks, and tally marks are just a clever way of keeping track of numbers. So the cool thing about tally marks is that I don't have to count every single line. For example, if I was trying to determine how many people picked soccer, I don't have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because tally marks group numbers together in groups of 5. And I can see that this is 5. So when you get to the fifth line, it crosses across to make a group. So I don't have to count each of these lines. I just know that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 people picked soccer. Looking at football, I see another group of 5, and then one more makes 6. 6 people picked football. Basketball is just 5. Ooh, a lot of people picked baseball or softball. 5, 10, 11, 12 people picked that category, and only 3 people picked volleyball. Let's take a look at another frequency table. This one is about the length of pencils. The title tells me that. I can see the categories here are different lengths. So the pencil may have been 4 inches long, 5 inches long, 6 inches long, 7 inches long, or 8 inches long. And then the tally marks tell me how many pencils measured that length. So I can see 9 pencils were 4 inches long, 6 pencils were 5 inches long, and I can look and count the tally marks using the groups of 5 to help me to tell how many pencils were in each category. So when we are making frequency tables, let's take a look at how to make our own frequency table. Here's one about a favorite school subject. So once again, I have my title, favorite school subject. I have my categories or my answer choices, math, science, social studies, and reading. So let's say I went around my class and I asked all of my classmates to pick their favorite school subject. I could record that data on my frequency table using tally marks. Let's say 4 people picked math. I would draw 4 vertical lines. Let's say 8 people picked science. Remember, when I'm using tally marks, when I get to 5, I don't just keep going. 5 crosses diagonally over the 4 to show a group of 5 and make it easier to count. So this is 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say 2 people picked social studies and 11 people picked reading. A group of 5, a group of 5, and then one more would make 11. So in this frequency table, I have data showing what favorite school subject my classmates chose. A lot of times when we have a frequency table, we'll be asked questions about that frequency table. So one question you might have with this type of data is, what was the most popular school subject? And that would be asking which one did the most number of people choose. In this example, reading was the most popular subject. Or it might ask, what is the least popular subject? Or which one did the fewest number of people choose? And that would, of course, be social studies because only 2 people picked that. You could also have questions that ask you to add or subtract data. Like it could say, how many more people picked science than math? Well, let's see. 8 people picked science and only 4 people picked math. So if I was being asked how many more, I would have to think about 8 minus 4. 4 more people picked science than math. You could also be asked to combine or add some of the data together, and that question might sound like this. How many people picked either social studies or reading? In that case, if you're asked to find either or, they want you to combine combine that data together. So the total of social studies and reading, let's see, that's 11 and that's 2, 11, 12, 13. That would be 13 people that picked either social studies or reading. Let's look at one more frequency table together. This one deals with number of siblings. So siblings, that's brothers and sisters. So if I were to go around my class and ask my classmates how many siblings they have, how many brothers and sisters they have, these would be the choices. They either have none, they're an only child, they have one brother or sister, 2, 3, 4, or more than 4. And I recorded the data in my frequency table like this. Okay, I could also answer questions about this data. For example, someone could ask just a simple question like this, how many students have no siblings? How many students have 0 siblings? And I could look at the frequency table and say that the answer is 3. 3 students have 0 siblings. Or you could be asked a little bit more challenging problem, like how many students have less than 2 siblings? So when I'm asked how many have less than 2, I have to ignore all of the students who have 2, 3, 4, or more than 4. Let's just ignore those don't have less. They either have 2 or they have more. So the answer would be a combination of the 0 and the 1. That would be, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 students. These 10 students have less than 2 siblings. So you might have a question like that. You might also have a question like this. How many students have 3 or more siblings? This one's always a little bit tricky. So in this question, how many students have 3 or more? I do want to include 3. And I want to include anything that's more than 3, but I don't want to include anything less than 3. These students have either 3 or more siblings. And let's see, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 students have 3 or more siblings. Those are some questions you might have about this type of frequency table. So let's talk about what makes this frequency table a little bit different than this frequency table. One thing that I notice when I look at these frequency tables is that these categories are words, math, science, social studies, reading, and these categories are numbers. So when we talk about data, we have 2 different types of data that you're going to need to know. One type is called categorical data. Categorical data is when the answer choices are words. So my frequency table about favorite school subject is categorical data because the choices for favorite school subject are words. The other type of data we're going to be dealing with is called numerical data. And this word numerical kind of sounds like the word number. And I want you to remember that because numerical data is when the answer choices are numbers. So in this frequency table, when I asked my classmates how many siblings they had, the choices that they had to choose from were numbers. This is numerical data. And we can ask a little bit different types of questions about numerical data than we can with categorical. Sometimes questions about numerical data are a little bit trickier. And so that's why we want to make sure we understand the difference. Categorical, words, numerical are numbers. So in our lesson today, we're going to be practicing making some frequency tables. We're also going to be using frequency tables to answer questions, and you're going to need to know the difference between categorical and numerical data.